YOLO. So it's going to show some of the programming code I'm working on here. So it peer-to-peer network controllers. I'll have to get the application. I'm on Windows right now. So basically, this is the smart search for umbrella.com. I created a DNS check reference. It's still kind of in the midterm. So I put a proposal together for peer-to-peer networks for an agreement in technology. So basically, any true or false statement as catch, or in the DNS through the peer-to-peer network will arrange itself through a voting schema. That was just a proposal; it wasn't actually placed or wasn't used. But I created this basic program. ChatGPT helped me a little bit. So we're working on the ANT protocol for the ANT for Garmin, things like that, for bicycle, for sports and stuff like that. So I got a real cheap knockoff one here. It's basically a radio signal. I can test. It's almost Bluetooth. It's its own independent one that's specifically for certain things. So of course, it did have some uses in Unix and things like that for cars, buses, and then certain signals like RFID ones that aren't really used today, but ones for bridges or navigation units for basically for those basic things. So what I have here, is a basic go over of installing these antivirus. Of course, it's not used right now. It's not used at all. I don't think these programs have been used for some time. So the last time I've seen these kind of things were a long time ago. So basically, I even integrated address into the IP range here. There's someone happened to steal my laptop the other day. I was like, what kind of USADL use or range would it have? So basically, with this MAC address, it can stamp the address there and clear the cache or the DNS results here. So basically, in this case, if the computer hooks up somewhere, it will say true or false statement, right? In accounting, right? So in accounting, what your false statements are, you'll have one true use trace statement. And that's just kind of not weighted or anything. It's kind of skeptical. So it's that's an interesting dynamic because it's not readable by humans, but humans use it as a line and function, right? So the algorithm should stay. And if you find my MAC address, that's my laptop one. If you find it on the laptop, But so basically that is the instance of that. So I created this DNS log result formula. So basically, if I take my computer administrator account here, open it up, plug it in here, paste it in here. So I can basically ping a domain to do this critical, function that the computer has not caught, right? The caught, it has a lot to do with the DNS cache itself. It has to do with the residual of the port signals. So that means, if it's making believe, hallucinating or hallucinating, this idea that, ports and DNS, especially the bridging ports, are real when they're not real. So let's say it picks a position of 12 or 1, it doubles the frequency. It doesn't mean necessarily it's getting rid of the static or it's agilitating, normalcy, ones or zeros. It's just picking one, right? And it's deviating on that function signal, just like it does. So technically, it's not that I'm in this program is hypothetical. It is that, the fact that maybe someone in the NSA.gov or somewhere along these server administrators, they don't know exactly the function in which it goes. So up on my program, it might say 0 for 0. I don't know if it's real. I mean, somebody might be scanning my screen right now with some sort of function. Basically, this function is a feature flag. So that's exactly the idea of the peer-to-peer network. I'm not sure if it has to do with peer-to-peer. DNS is the only signal I know of that you can write to. So it has some sort of local access memory on it. So I've been heading up random websites and I looked it up on, let's see if I have the website here. I was just logged in. Oh, I must have. Let's see if I can go into it right now. So it's Umbrella by Cisco here. Let's see if it will pop up here without me putting my password in. Oh, shoot. All right. Shoot. Well, I have to log in here. Let's see if I have to log in. Gosh darn. I don't want to log in. It's so silly, these things, like even with antivirus. So I'll have to stop sharing my screen for 1 second, or let's see. Yeah, I'll have to screen. So I'll just do that. Let's see. Okay, all right, never mind then. It looks like I had it the entire time. It was just open there. So basically, I have the screen here. So I can request a DNS record here, and then basically it will overview on the IP address here. So if I were to, let's say, go to a website I own here, and this is my like kind of business slash like administration like education accounts I made, and basically a business to kind of review different facts. It is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of, owning a business in California, at least. It's insane, basically. So I'm going to go into, where is it? Deployments. I think it's deployments, probably investigate. I haven't checked out all of their smart, their intent here. So I'll look at a basic hedge or header URL I made. So it's 3c0f.org. But a basic function of kind of like a mix of HTTP and then what is like a Java API on archive.org, and then I had to host it. So it's not for 3c0f. I think it does direct to it, but I mean, I'm not entirely sure if it's been changed or redirected. Basically, redirect is the big word. So we look at the investigate here. So I'll hit the investigate here, and it should show a DNS stamp of it being directed. And of course, I use this as an API for something like that's basically like in between HTTP scripts and like something APS. So basically you can see there's a redirection point, but there's multiple programs like trying to redirect at the same time. So you can see it's categorized. That's why I mentioned the idea of the DNS port is very similar to the IP address. So let's see if it does show up on here. It might just not show up at all. So it will show up today. I believe I just did it a second ago. Let's see. I have to look for the DNS records. But I think this is it here. Oh, yes, here it is. So here's the DNS records here. All right, yeah, and then you can see it right here. You can see that there was an attempt. Actually, maybe not. Let's see. Secure server. Let's see, 825, 828, and it's the 9th right now. So maybe that's interesting. Maybe it just has not logged in yet. I think that's particularly it, or it's just not hosting correctly. So let's go into another website I have. I did yesterday. So basically, it will show up as the DNS did log it. For some reason, it's probably just not showing up as it did this morning. Let's see. So it's 9/9 today. And these malicious things, they're definitely just the controllers. Basic functions. Websites that have been created that look or are using malicious intent. So these are the DNS records for this website here. I suppose this one is old or outdated as well. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that. It just has not been updated. So from what I'm getting at this is very fraudulent. It's almost like very, very fraudulent. The DNS reports are actually usatory. So basically they're functioning just like the account schema here. So from what I'm seeing, it's been spoofed as well. And I mean, spoofed, it's not like being jacked, but like when you steal something from somebody, it's stealing something from somebody. So, there is that instance. Also, you can see some of these networks are spoofed. Spoofed. I mean, like they're being redirected. They're tangible, right? They're not being used at all. So here's one. We have a protection outlook. We have this right here. But again, it's being spoofed. So the secure server here just isn't registering. I think it has to do with the demand of the network or something like that. Again, it's spoofed. So we have like a network attacker that's finding a way to frequently change signals or frequently change, like these horizon outputs. Basically, like what goes where goes what. It's probably like, that's like, oh, it's a mix of the wires the last second. And again, it doesn't just work that way. So, I mean, you go to something more secure. I have one page right here. It's a podcast. I look at it and just kind of like look at the range of DNS unique visitors. Doesn't really make too much sense. 6 queries for like something, it's like a gift from the gods or something. So look at it. It's last seen like 5 days ago, and then we have this secure network here, secure server that all. So there is a catch in the DNS. I'll show you right here. It does spoof it. I forget what website it did check, but it did arrange it. So if I check the domain right now, so it would have basically created DNS payload here. So 0 is false, 1 is true, like it should be. The output will just show the parameter mandatory true, right? Like it should be. It should not be false. String domain, feature flag that example, right? Set HKU at false, right? Also write HK studio. So it didn't save to my log, obviously. It needs to be written better, right? But you look at something like the DNS of a function, right? It'll be there. So basically, it is an very interesting concept right here. I like it because it does use these 3 of peer-to-peer, which is a 3.4 gigahertz connection, which would be in this instance so low. We're kind of like in between like the bad and good of the situation. In this instance, causing a tremendous amount of problem. And I think it is the definite the portion. I mean, not saying peer-to-peer because it doesn't have to be 3.4, right? The point is being peer-like, right? The instances, however, though, that step signal or the engineering process there isn't meant for this capability. It's meant for something different. So in this instance, there's a divisional range there, but the instance also states, right, that there is a fixture between the low level, the worst of the worst, and the good here, which is the peer-to-peer. So it's kind of like out of control. Our system here on the border is just like that. So when you have something that's like grabbing each other, I mean, it's like shaking. It's like chaos. It's decay, right? You have one fixed position, the other, and it's not that difficult to understand. Something it's very simple. I'm not saying like sometimes it takes to describe things like the people is fixed with something. Like the sign language of it looks like my signal is going out for some reason. For some reason, it's going out. Interesting. Okay, there we go. All right. So sometimes things are signifying like as a decay, right? If there's a wireless wire, it doesn't really signify as anything. It's like an environmental concern, right? So like sign language, you have up or down for decay, right? Effective or effective. So it's interesting. So this is the concept I'm looking at. I've spoofed, flagged, as it's a DNS flag sync. We'll create a postal, DNS server, and it will save on the receipt. But where does the binary go? Why would it loop if it already should be a state, right? Correct. So I mean, with the signal, you can power it, right? So simple, but not simple, right? I mean, the basic necessity of seeding the thought or putting power to thought, like if it's energy, maybe not ATP, because you don't put ATP in your body. You put like something like magnesium or something to clean your body, right? If there's blood in it, you clean the blood from your system out, right? Sort of. I mean, fluoride doesn't really work that way. Mint doesn't really work that way, right? But you could put like, potassium, magnesium technically as ways to create those powers, right? And, more potassium is in foods, and then magnesium is in like metal. So like think of the metal as a way to create more power. But, power is not something you really want to mess with in the computer, right? If magnesium was in your wires, you'd probably like, I have magnesium wire, and it's not really going to handle my signal very well. So this is the basic instant of this flag write-off. So I even tried pinging Linux or other distributor like the NSA, right? But the point is, the flag won't show. It's chaotic somehow. So unless the script, is not a script and it doesn't do what it says it does, and it doesn't say, it doesn't have a distinguishing port, just like kind of like carbon, right? If carbon was all, floating one way, it would be selective or associative, right? It doesn't mean it's an association or selection, right? It means it's proving itself wrong. In this case, it's the same way. So if a function that it overwhelms everything, if it's Visa, if it's, everything that has the number 1 in it, says you can have some unpositive statements, right? It doesn't mean it's incorrect that the statement exists at all. Like if it was a big number of counting people and databases, in that instance, separate, like with like an agreement, right? It says that it should because it doesn't exist, right? The potential war then could be a loop, and kind of like the idea of like being able to count. If there's a mistake, if there's an error count, right? It is there for like that. But in the instance of like all of the computer working, people have developed a way to create these signals. So this entirely just worked that way. But what you do know is the troublesome sense of it being tricked into saying it's true or false is technically a delusion. It's almost an insinuation of hallucinating, right? You're starting to believe something that's not real. Still a delusion, but when you act on these judgments, you start believing certain things are not certain things. Like when a computer, you type it out and the memory just starts hallucinating, then there's some sort of issue. I mean, there should be a true or false in any of this, right? So I mean, you do a simple domain. Let's say like we pick, the White House, something else. Of course, this is just a basic program. Pipeline. I mean, do you see any pipelines on the computer? I don't. So let's try the White House. Whitehouse.gov. And let's make sure the website is the correct website. Whitehouse.gov. So we have the whitehouse.gov out of all the places, and you're like, okay, why does the DNS resolve itself as a true or false statement when the books? I mean, they should be clearly haunted. Like they should be. Okay, here's the transaction. There's the transaction, right? Not we pulled this transaction with this transaction. That's your data, right? It's your private data, and secure, right? There should be a claimer or a disclaimer that says, okay, you're not going to read this message today, or your message isn't going to be here. That's your loved one odysseys that are going to be, bloody with the terrorist group, and you don't know anything, right? So seclusive, you just like, did I piece this together with my mind? I don't think so. But, in the instance of, you want the messages in front of you to be your messages, you're like, yeah. Who's this big guy? What is this data website that does this? Why is my credit card, saying I have this issue if I don't have this issue? Correct, right? So in this instance, it's almost criminal. It's insane. But like, well, why isn't DNS selective as anything else? So you ping it there, and it pings, right? So here it's all this shell script or whatever Doom file it would be, and then it creates a selective one. You're like, food is the same way. Selective, right? It's a new machinery, new thing, right? So when you go back to psychology, there's a simple test for a user or kind of people talk selective attention or spotlight attention, right? So they had a study back in the day. It was about T-shirts. So they used T-shirts as an example for that selective or spotlight attention. It's more of the spotlight. Selective is more of the command, right? Selective is more of the machinery part, or it's also more of the organization part. So where it's like kind of like, find a easy way or a way to organize something so it doesn't potentially affect you. And the same thing for chemical bonds. So the selective attention there, or the spotlight attention, use T-shirts with, the attention range of what you. The wrench part, of the selective attention is an object orientation to show you were using selective attention as a way to make a means to do something. Right. And a lot of people don't recognize that because there are also not a few spotlight attentive reasonings, right? And I mean, the idea of spotlight attention is more modern, right? In this approach of like business or your a function or demand in the market, right? You don't have some greater than or lower than. It is asymptotal, right? I mean, you might be able to count tons of numbers back in the day, but they're not as functionable as they are now in a way, right? So demand isn't as scheduled as it was prior to like something modern technology gave us, and then now it is that demand, or this entire idea of plotting death or the functions of war is so outdated. It's considered heinous, it's considered deadly, it's considered so in demanding, it's considered insanity, right? It is beyond a human capable thought, right? So if you were to plot the idea of killing someone back in the day in World War II with like these warships, it would not be translatable to today's talk, right? The same idea of the big letter D for plotting those demands is so criminal. It's basically criminal, right? So this idea of creating a DNS flag log, maybe not exactly, but the idea of this true false statement is so prompt. It is a reality. But the idea of all zeros, all ones, one being zero or zero being one, it's countable, right? So I mean, like you take the GAAP, and you have whatever like little rules your business might have, or it says we'll fix this account to the next statement, or we will put it into a statement that is more rock paper scissors basically, and don't make it overcomplicated. A simple solution is a simple solution. A pair of scissors is a pair of scissors, and they can cut you, right? And rock is rock, but that rock could be medicine or something, right? So there's an issue with the system of demand, right? So there's also an issue with people versus nothing, right? If a people didn't exist, there would be no people, right? If there was a person that didn't exist, it would still be the same. There would be no person. So don't let your imagination ruin your life. But if you have nothing in this case, then you can't have something. Then you cannot have something, right? You cannot make no people out of no people, right? Or no people out of a people, right? It doesn't work. That's extermination thought. That's so aggressive. It's viability of true. It's hard to explain, right? So in economics, you might suggest something like a Latin economy where it's built on 120 portions, where we have a portional economy that's built on 100, right? But it isn't that serious, or it's not that length, because we're talking about length again. We're talking about the script of creating a population or something greater once we develop this idea, sense of containing an effective region. But it all comes from the small digits, the molar recreation, even the spark in the computer here. So this is interesting. Even if you wanted to flag something like Google, it won't even show back. It won't even create a device statement there, or won't do it. So it is what it is right there. So just wanted to share this little video. So, all right, well, I'm going to take off here. It was good catching y'all.